The gallery opening was supposed to be my fresh start. I stood in the corner of the converted warehouse, champagne flute trembling in my hand, watching Portland's art elite mingle under Edison bulbs that cast everyone in a golden, forgiving light. 6 months since I'd left Boston. 6 months since I'd walked away from Daniel's lies, his other woman, his perfect explanations that made me feel crazy for questioning anything. Stunning work, truly, a woman in geometric earrings said, gesturing at my landscape series mounted on exposed brick. The way you capture isolation, it's visceral. I smiled the way I'd learned to smile. Grateful, humble, not broken at all. Then I saw him across the room. Daniel, my ex-fiancé, who I'd left 3 states behind, stood near the catering table in his tailored navy suit, scanning the crowd with that calculating look I knew too well. My breath caught. The champagne glass nearly slipped from my fingers. How did he find me? I'd been so careful. New city, new apartment, new name on my studio lease. I'd even deactivated social media for months. But there he was, shoulders squared with that self-assured posture that used to make me feel safe and now made my skin crawl. His eyes found mine. The smile that spread across his face was pure possession. I turned and pushed through the crowd, my heels clicking against concrete as I navigated between clusters of strangers who suddenly felt like witnesses to my humiliation. The exit signs blurred. My chest tightened with that familiar panic, the kind that made me doubt my own reality, my own choices. You're overreacting, Claire. He probably just wants to talk. No. I'd done 2 years of therapy to silence that voice. I burst through the side door into an alley that smelled of rain and garbage, gulping cold October air. My hands shook as I fumbled for my phone. But before I could call anyone, I heard the door open behind me. Claire, wait, Daniel's voice. Smooth as ever. Don't. I held up one hand without turning around. Don't come near me. I flew across the country to see you. His footsteps echoed. You won't even give me 5 minutes? I gave you 3 years. My voice cracked despite my best effort. That was more than enough. You're being dramatic. He moved closer. I could feel it, that invasive proximity. You always do this. Run instead of dealing with, she's not running from anything. The voice came from the alley's mouth, deep and rough, carrying an edge that made the hair on my neck stand up. A man emerged from the shadows where the streetlight barely reached. And even in the dim light, I could see he was nothing like the polished art collectors inside. He was tall, well over 6 feet, with dark hair that fell just past his collar and a leather jacket that looked lived in, not fashionable. His face was all sharp angles and barely contained intensity, the kind of man who looked like he'd be equally comfortable in a bar fight or running a criminal empire. His eyes, when they caught the light, were an unsettling amber, and they were fixed on Daniel with something that looked very much like a threat. Who the hell are you? Daniel straightened, puffing up the way men do when their authority is challenged. The stranger didn't answer. He walked forward with the kind of fluid grace that seemed almost inhuman, closing the distance between us in 3 long strides. Then he did something that made my heart stop. He extended his hand to me, palm up, waiting. I don't know why I took it. Maybe it was the panic. Maybe it was the way Daniel's presence made me feel small, and this stranger's sudden appearance made me feel seen, protected, even though I didn't know him from Adam. The moment my fingers touched his, everything changed. Heat raced up my arm, not uncomfortable, but intense, like touching a live wire wrapped in velvet. His hand closed around mine, strong and calloused, and he pulled me close with a movement so natural. It felt choreographed. My back pressed against his chest. His other arm came around my waist, not quite an embrace, but definitely a claim. She's mine to protect, he said, his voice a low rumble I felt through my spine. So I suggest you walk away before this gets complicated. Daniel's face flushed red. This is insane. Claire, you don't even know this man. And I'm done knowing you. The words came out stronger than I felt, bolstered by the solid presence behind me, by the stranger's hand still gripping mine like an anchor. Leave, now. You're making a mistake. The stranger moved. 1 second he was holding me, the next he'd stepped forward, putting himself between Daniel and me. He didn't raise his voice, didn't touch Daniel, but something in his posture, in the way he angled his body, made Daniel take 3 quick steps backward. She told you to leave. Each word was precisely measured. I won't be so polite if I have to repeat myself. For a moment, I thought Daniel might actually try something stupid. But whatever he saw in the stranger's face made him reconsider. He looked past the man to me, his expression cycling through anger, wounded pride, and something that might have been genuine hurt. "This isn't over, Claire." "Yeah," the stranger said softly. "It really is." Daniel held his stare for another heartbeat, then turned and disappeared into the street, his rapid footsteps fading into the Portland night. The moment he was gone, I realized I was shaking. The stranger turned back to me, and I got my first real look at his face. He was younger than I'd first thought, maybe early 30s, with a day's worth of stubble and a small scar cutting through his left eyebrow. But it was his eyes that held me, amber and intense, almost glowing in the alley's half-light, with an intelligence that felt ancient despite his age. "Thank you," I managed, stepping back and wrapping my arms around myself. "Thank you. But who, Cale?" He said it like the word cost him something. "My name is Cale, Claire." I swallowed. "But you already knew that." "I did." "Why?" His jaw tightened. He looked away, toward where Daniel had vanished, then back at me with an expression I couldn't read. Conflict, maybe, or resignation. "Because I've been watching you for 3 weeks," he said finally. "And because keeping you safe just became a lot more complicated than either of us signed up for." The words should have terrified me. A strange man admitting he'd been stalking me should have sent me running back inside, screaming for security. But standing there in that alley, with the ghost of his touch still burning on my skin, and those impossible amber eyes locked on mine, all I felt was a pull, a recognition I had no name for. Like I'd been waiting my whole life for someone to say exactly those words. "Complicated how?" I whispered. Cale's smile was sharp and joyless. "You really want to know?" I should have said no, should have walked away, gone, home, called the police like a rational person. Instead, I heard myself say, "Yes." His eyes flashed, actually flashed, like light reflecting off an animal's retina, and I realized that whatever I'd just agreed to, there was no taking it back. "Then we need to get you somewhere safe," he said. "Because the man you just ran from? He's the least dangerous thing hunting you tonight." The rational part of my brain screamed at me to run. The rest of me, the part that had learned to trust my instincts after years of ignoring them with Daniel, stayed rooted to the spot, studying this man who claimed to have been watching me. Who said I was being hunted? Hunted by what? My voice was steadier than I felt. Cale's expression darkened. He glanced over his shoulder toward the street, his entire body tense like a predator scenting danger. "Not here. Not out in the open." "Then where?" I challenged, surprising myself. "Your car? Some abandoned warehouse? You realize how that sounds, right?" Something flickered across his face, might have been amusement, if his eyes weren't so deadly serious. "The coffee shop on Morrison. Public enough for you?" I hesitated. Everything about this was insane. But Daniel had found me despite all my precautions, and this stranger Cale had appeared at exactly the right moment, like he'd been waiting, watching, just as he'd admitted. 1 hour, I said. "And I'm keeping my phone in my hand the entire time." "Fair enough." He stepped back, giving me space, but his eyes never left mine. "But Claire, don't go home tonight, not until we talk." "Why not?" "Because whoever told your ex where to find you knows where you live too." The words sent ice down my spine. Before I could respond, Cale turned and walked toward the mouth of the alley. He moved with an unsettling grace, his steps silent despite his size. At the edge of the streetlight, he paused and looked back. "Morrison and 3rd. 1 hour. Come alone." Then he was gone, melting into the tea. Portland night like smoke. I went back inside long enough to grab my coat and make excuses to the gallery owner. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. The warm, wine-soaked air felt suffocating now. All those strangers suddenly too close, too interested. I kept scanning faces, wondering if any of them had been watching me too. The walk to Morrison Street took 20 minutes. I kept my keys threaded through my fingers, my phone clutched in the other hand with 911 already dialed, thumb hovering over the call button. Every shadow made me flinch. Every pair of headlights felt like a threat. "You're being paranoid," I told myself, but paranoia was better than naive. I'd learned that lesson. The coffee shop was a small place called Rowan's, tucked between a vintage bookstore and a closed yoga studio. Warm light spilled through large windows, and I could see a handful of customers scattered at tables. Safe, public, exactly what I'd asked for. Cale sat in the back corner, his broad shoulders, filling a wooden chair that looked too delicate for him. He'd removed his leather jacket, revealing a dark Henley that showed off muscular forearms marked with what looked like intricate tattoos. His eyes tracked me the moment I entered, that amber gaze intense and unwavering. I ordered a chamomile tea I didn't want, and joined him, choosing the seat with my back to the wall, another thing therapy had taught me. "You came," he said quietly. "You knew I would. Hoped." He pushed a second cup across the table, black coffee, still steaming. "You look like you need this more than tea." He wasn't wrong. I wrapped my hands around the mug, letting the heat anchor me. "Explain. Everything. Starting with why you've been watching me." Cale leaned back, and I caught something in his expression, a war between what he wanted to say and what he thought he should. His jaw worked for a moment before he spoke. 3 weeks ago, your name came across let's call it a network. A list of people, flagged as potential targets. Targets for what? Trafficking. Identity theft. Sometimes worse. His fingers drummed once against the table, then stilled. "I work with a group that monitors these networks. When your name appeared, I was sent to assess the threat level." It sounded plausible, almost, but there was something in the way he said it, careful, measured, like he was translating from another language. "And what did you assess?" I asked. "That you're in danger, that your ex-fiancé showing up tonight wasn't coincidence." He leaned forward, his voice dropping. "How much do you know about Daniel's business?" "He's in real estate development. Boston. Area. Mostly commercial properties." The words felt rote, rehearsed from 100 cocktail parties. "Why?" "Because 6 months ago, right around the time you left him, one of his developments went sideways. A deal with some very connected, very dangerous people who don't like losing money." Cale's eyes never left mine. "They've been looking for leverage. And you, Claire Whitmore, are excellent leverage." My stomach dropped. "That's insane. Daniel would never. Daniel's in debt to people who make your stalker ex look like a saint." Cale's voice was flat, factual. "And when he couldn't deliver what he promised, they started looking at what else he had to offer, including information about the woman he'd been planning to marry, the artist who left him and disappeared." The coffee shop suddenly felt too small, too bright. I set down my cup before I could drop it. "You're saying Daniel sold me out?" "I'm saying he's desperate enough to try." Cale's expression softened slightly. "Which is why I've been keeping an eye on you, making sure no one got close. Until tonight," he agreed. "When he showed up at your gallery opening, publicly, in front of witnesses. That was either incredibly stupid or a deliberate message." "Message to whom?" Cale's silence was answer enough. I stood abruptly, my chair scraping against the floor. A couple at the next table glanced over. "This is insane. All of this. I should go to the police." "And tell them what?" Cale stood too, his movements controlled but urgent. "That your ex found you at a public event? That a stranger warned you about a trafficking network with no proof? Better than trusting someone who admits he's been stalking me. I've been protecting you." His voice carried an edge now, something raw beneath the calm surface. "There's a difference." "To who?" "You." I grabbed my coat. "I don't know you. I don't know anything about you except that you show up out of nowhere with some insane story. Claire." He caught my wrist gently, but firmly enough to stop me. The touch sent that same electric heat racing up my arm, stronger this time. "Please, just listen." I should have pulled away, should have made a scene, called for help, but his hand on my skin felt like something I'd been missing without knowing it, like recognition. His eyes widened slightly, and I realized he felt it too. Whatever this was. "What is that?" I whispered. Cale released me immediately, stepping back like I'd burned him. His expression shuddered, and when he spoke again, his voice was carefully neutral. "Static electricity. Dry air. Liar." But I didn't call him on it. Instead, I wrapped my coat tighter and moved toward the door. "If what you're saying is true, if I'm really in danger, then what am I supposed to do?" "Let me keep you safe." He followed, maintaining that careful distance. "At least until we know what Daniel's planning." "And I'm just supposed to trust you?" "No." Cale's smile was humorless. "You're supposed to trust your instincts, the same ones that got you out of that alley safely, the same ones that brought you here." He was right, and I hated it. One night, I heard myself say, "I'll stay somewhere public, a hotel downtown. Not good enough. They'll have your credit cards flagged. He pulled out his phone. I have a secure location, safe house protocol, separate rooms, witnesses nearby. You have my word, his word, from a stranger. But standing there, with the weight of his amber eyes on mine, and the ghost of his touch still tingling on my wrist, I made a choice that terrified me. One night, I repeated, and tomorrow, we're going to the police. Cale nodded, but something in his expression looked almost like grief. Tomorrow, he agreed. We both knew he was lying. The safe house wasn't in the city. I realized this as Cale's black truck turned off the highway onto a narrow road that wound into the forested hills west of Portland. Rain had started a soft mist that made the headlights cut strange shapes through the darkness. You said downtown, I managed, my hand tight on the door handle. I said secure. Cale's eyes stayed on the road. Downtown has cameras, digital trails, too many ways to track you. This place doesn't exist on any map. That's not reassuring. It's not meant to be. He glanced at me briefly. But it's safe, I promise. Promises from strangers. I was collecting them tonight. The road narrowed further, trees pressing close on either side. No streetlights, no houses. Just endless forest and the rain pattering against the windshield. My phone showed 1 bar of service, then none. Cale, we're here. The headlights swept across a cabin that materialized from the darkness like something out of a fairy tale. Wood and stone, modest but well-maintained, with warm light glowing through curtained windows. Smoke curled from a chimney. Someone's inside, I said, tension flooding back. My brother. Cale cut the engine. He manages the property. You'll be safe with him too. Brother. That was something family meant: accountability, witnesses, normalcy. I let out a breath I didn't know I'd been holding. The front door opened before we reached it. A man stepped onto the porch, younger than Cale by a few years, with similar dark hair but lighter eyes, gray instead of amber. He wore jeans and a flannel shirt, looking more like a park ranger than whatever I'd expected. You brought her? His voice carried surprise and something else. Concern, maybe. Didn't have a choice, Garrett. Cale's tone was clipped. Daniel showed up. Garrett's expression darkened. Inside. Both of you. The cabin's interior was surprisingly warm, literally and figuratively. A fire crackled in a stone fireplace. Comfortable furniture arranged around a worn rug. Bookshelves lined one wall, and I caught titles ranging from poetry to wilderness survival guides. It felt lived in, real, not like a place where people got murdered. I hated that I had to think that way now. Coffee? Tea? Garrett moved to the kitchen area, open and connected to the main room. You look like you've had a night. That's an understatement. I stayed near the door, coat still on. How long have you two been planning this? The brothers exchanged a look I couldn't read. Since your name hit the network, Cale said finally. We've had this place ready for 3 weeks. Just in case. In case of what? Exactly? I turned on him. You keep talking about danger and networks and people tracking me, but you haven't given me anything concrete. No names, no proof, because the proof could get you killed. Cale's voice was hard. The less you know about who these people are, the safer you are. That's convenient. That's tactical. He moved closer, and I saw the frustration in his face. You think I want to be cryptic? You think I enjoy watching someone refuse help because they can't see the threat? I see the threat just fine. I gestured between us. 2 strange men, isolated location, no cell service. There's a landline. Garrett pointed to an old rotary phone on the wall. Works fine. Call anyone you want. I stared at it. At them. At the situation I'd somehow walked into. Who are you people? I asked quietly. Really? Another loaded glance. Between brothers. Security consultants, Garrett said. At the same time, Cale said, private contractors. I laughed, sharp and humorless. You can't even agree on your cover story. We work in private security. Cale corrected, shooting his brother a look. Specializing in threat assessment and protection. Mostly for people who've been caught up in situations beyond their control. Like you. It still felt like half-truths wrapped in professional language. But standing there, watching the firelight play across their faces, I saw something I recognized. The weight of secrets. The careful distance of people who'd learned not to let anyone too close. I'd worn that same expression for 3 years with Daniel. Fine. I shrugged off my coat. One night. Then tomorrow, we figure this out properly. With actual authorities. Relief flickered across Garrett's face. Kyle just nodded, but his shoulders lost some of their tension. "Your room's upstairs," Garrett said. "First door on the right. Fresh towels in the bathroom. Lock works from the inside if it makes you feel better." It did. A little. I climbed the narrow staircase, feeling their eyes on me until I disappeared from view. The room was small but clean, a double bed with a thick quilt, a dresser, a window that looked out into absolute darkness. I locked the door and sat on the edge of the bed, finally letting myself shake. What was I doing here? What was I thinking? Trusting two strange men in the middle of nowhere. But even as panic whispered its warnings, another part of me, the part that had grabbed Cale's hand in that alley, felt oddly calm. Safe, even. Voices drifted up through the floorboards. The brothers, arguing in tones too low to make out words. Then silence. Footsteps. A door closing somewhere below. I moved to the window. Rain streaked the glass. But beyond it, I could make out the forest's dark silhouette. As I watched, something moved between the trees. Large, quick. There, and gone, before I could focus on it. My heart hammered. Just a deer, probably. Or a bear. This was the wilderness. But it had moved wrong. Too fluid, too purposeful. I backed away from the window and sat on the bed again, pulling the quilt around my shoulders. Tomorrow I'd demand real answers. Tomorrow I'd go to the police, get actual help, figure out what Daniel had done. Tonight, I'd just try to survive the choice I'd made. A soft knock on the door made me jump. "Claire?" Cale's voice, muffled through wood. "You okay?" "Fine," I called back, hating how shaky I sounded. Silence. Then, "I'm in the room across the hall. If you need anything, I won't." More silence. I heard him move away, his footsteps careful and quiet. Too quiet for someone his size. I lay back on the bed, still fully clothed, and stared at the ceiling. Sleep felt impossible. But exhaustion pulled at me anyway, adrenaline finally crashing. As I drifted, I could have sworn I heard something outside. Not in the forest this time. Closer. Right beneath my window. A low sound that might have been wind through trees, or might have been something breathing. I woke to silence so complete it felt unnatural. No city sounds, no traffic, just the absence of noise that only deep wilderness provides. Gray dawn light filtered through the curtains, and for a disorienting moment, I forgot where I was. Then memory crashed back. The gallery, Daniel, Cale's hand in mine. I sat up, every muscle tense. The house was still. Too still. I checked my phone dead, despite being fully charged last night. The screen wouldn't even light up. My pulse quickened as I unlocked the door and crept into the hallway. Cale's door stood open, the room empty. Downstairs, I heard the murmur of voices. "Can't keep lying to her," Garrett's voice, frustrated. "I'm not lying. I'm protecting her." Cale's response was low, dangerous. "By pretending to be something you're not, that's going to end well. What's my alternative? Tell her the truth and watch her run straight into their hands?" I froze on the stairs, barely breathing. "She deserves to know what she's caught up in," Garrett insisted. "What you've dragged her into." "I didn't drag her into anything. The bond." Cale cut himself off sharply. "Bond." The word hung in the air like smoke. "The bond doesn't give you the right to manipulate her," Garrett said quietly. "She's not Pac. She doesn't understand what this means. You think I don't know that?" Something crashed a mug, maybe. "You think I wanted this?" She was supposed to be a simple protection job. Watch from a distance, keep her safe, move on. But then I got close enough to scent her, and I took another step down. The stair creaked. Instant silence below. "Claire." Cale appeared at the bottom of the stairs, his expression carefully blank. "You're awake. What were you talking about?" I descended slowly, watching both of them. "What bond?" "Coffee?" Garrett offered, already moving to the kitchen. "You look like you could use some." "Stop deflecting." I reached the main floor, squaring my shoulders. "I heard what you said. I deserve to know what's going on." Cale's jaw tightened. In the morning light, he looked different, wilder somehow, despite being freshly showered. His hair was still damp, falling across his forehead, and those amber eyes seemed to catch and hold the light in ways that weren't quite normal. "Sit down," he said finally. "I'd rather stand." Then stand. He moved to the fireplace, gripping the mantel with both hands. His knuckles went white. But understand that what I'm about to tell you will change everything. And once you know, there's no going back to your normal life. Fear and curiosity warred in my chest. Try me. Garrett set a coffee cup on the table anyway, then retreated to lean against the kitchen counter. His posture screamed tension, like he was ready to intervene if this went wrong. Cale turned to face me. The people tracking you, they're not just criminals. They're part of something older. Something that exists outside human law. You're talking in riddles again. I'm talking about families, he said. Bloodlines that have existed for centuries, operating in the shadows. Some call them syndicates. Others know them as clans. He paused, his eyes never leaving mine. We call them packs. The word sent a chill through me. Packs. Daniel borrowed money from the Crescent City Pack to finance his development. When the deal collapsed, he couldn't pay them back, so he offered them information about you instead. Cale's voice was measured, clinical. Your patterns, your habits, where you'd run to. They've been waiting for the right moment to collect. Collect me for what? Leverage, trade, currency. His expression darkened. In their world, a person with no ties, no one to report them missing that's valuable. Especially someone like you, someone like me, someone who ran away from everything they knew, who cut contact with, family and friends, who's already trained themselves to disappear. Cale pushed away from the mantel. You made yourself invisible, Claire, which makes you perfect for people who traffic in the invisible. The room tilted slightly. I reached for the table to steady myself. And you? What are you in all this? Here. This was the moment. I saw it in the way his shoulders squared, the way Garrett shifted nervously. I'm the thing they're afraid of, Cale said quietly. The reason they haven't taken you yet. Because I'm from a different kind of pack, one that doesn't deal in human suffering. Human suffering? I latched onto the word. As opposed to what? His eyes flashed that same eerie gleam from the alley. As opposed to our own. The silence stretched too long. My heart hammered against my ribs. There was something in the way he stood, the way he held himself apart, that finally made sense of all the strangeness, the impossible grace, the way he'd appeared in that alley at exactly the right moment. The thing I'd seen moving through the trees last night. You're insane, I whispered, but my voice lacked conviction. I'm honest. He took a step closer. For the first time since we met, I'm being completely honest with you. Cale, Garrett warned. She needs to see. Cale's gaze locked on mine. Otherwise, she'll never trust me. Never understand why I can keep her safe when no one else can. See what? My voice came out smaller than I wanted. He moved toward the door, grabbing his jacket. Come outside. Both of you. And Claire, whatever you see, whatever you think you understand, remember that I'm still me. Still the person who pulled you out of that alley. Nothing else changes. Everything changes, I thought, but I followed him anyway. We walked into the misty morning, our breath clouding the cold air. Cale led us about 50 yards from the cabin, to where the forest pressed close and ancient. The rain had stopped, but everything dripped with moisture. Don't be afraid, he said, already backing away. Cale, what are you? His body convulsed. I stumbled backward, a scream building in my throat, but Garrett's hand closed on my shoulder, holding me in place. Watch, he murmured. Just watch. Cale dropped to his knees, his back arching. The sounds coming from him were wrong, bones shifting, muscle tearing and reforming. His clothes rippled and merged with his skin. And then, a wolf stood where Cale had been. Not a dog, not some husky or malamute. A wolf, massive and dark-furred, with eyes that glowed amber even in daylight. Those eyes, Cale's eyes, fixed on mine. And I understood. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe, couldn't process what my eyes were showing me. The wolf Cale remained perfectly still, as if understanding that any sudden movement would shatter whatever fragile thread was keeping me from complete panic. His amber eyes held mine with an intelligence that was unmistakably human. Unmistakably him. It's real. I heard myself whisper. Oh God, it's real. Breathe, Claire. Garrett's voice was steady beside me, his hand still on my shoulder. Just breathe. I sucked in air that felt too thin, too cold. The wolf's ears flicked forward at the sound. He took one careful step toward me, then stopped when I flinched. He won't hurt you, Garrett said. He couldn't, even if he wanted to. The bond won't allow it. The bond. My voice cracked. What is that? What does it mean? Let him shift back. He can explain better than I can. The wolf's form shimmered, and I had to look away as the transformation reversed. The sounds were worse going backward, wet and organic and fundamentally wrong. When I looked back, Kale knelt in the grass, fully human again, chest heaving. Now you know, he said roughly. I took 3 steps back, then 3 more. My legs hit a fallen log and I sat down hard, the damp wood soaking through my jeans. None of it mattered. Nothing mattered except the complete obliteration of Tess, reality I'd just witnessed. Werewolves, I said flatly. You're a werewolf. Shifter. Kale stayed where he was, giving me space. We prefer shifter. And yes. And the people after me? Some are like us. Most are human, but they know about our world. They use that knowledge for profit. He slowly stood, moving with that same careful grace. The Crescent City Pack deals in everything dark you can imagine. They would have sold you to the highest bidder, Claire, or worse. My mind spun. Daniel knows about this? No, he's just a desperate man who made a deal with the wrong people. They've kept the supernatural element hidden from him. Kale moved closer, then crouched a few feet away, making himself smaller. But we know about him. We've been tracking Crescent City's movements for months. Why didn't you just kill them? The question came out harder than I intended. If they're so dangerous, if you're some kind of supernatural enforcer, because we're not monsters. His voice carried an edge. We have laws, rules. We can't just murder humans because they're involved with the wrong pack. It would expose our entire world. So you wait, watch people get hurt? We intervene when we can. We protect. He met my eyes. Like I protected you. The words hung between us. I wanted to be angry, wanted to rage at him for the deception, the impossibility of everything. But underneath the shock was something else. The memory of his hand in mine. The feeling of safety I'd had no reason to trust. The bond, I said. Tell me what it means. Kale's expression shifted, vulnerability breaking through his careful control. It's rare, ancient. Most shifters go their entire lives without experiencing it. He paused. It's a connection between souls. When 2 people are meant for each other, the bond forms. We feel it instantly. Like recognition. My heart hammered. The electricity. When you touched me, yes. And you felt it too. The moment our hands met, his voice dropped lower. I've been alive for 34 years, Claire. I've never felt anything like it. Garrett cleared his throat. I'll be inside if you need me. He disappeared toward the cabin, leaving us alone in the misty clearing. I stood slowly, my legs unsteady. So what, we're soulmates now? Destiny? Fate? I don't know. Kyle rose too, maintaining that careful distance. The bond doesn't control us. It doesn't force anything. It just connects, makes us aware of each other in ways that shouldn't be possible. Like knowing when I'm in danger. Like knowing when you're afraid, or angry, or confused. He took a breath. I can feel your emotions right now, Claire. Not read your thoughts, never that. But the echo of what you're feeling, it's overwhelming. I wrapped my arms around myself. This is insane. All of it. I know. Werewolves shouldn't exist. Magic shouldn't exist. People can't just change into animals. But we do. And it does. And I did, right in front of you. He moved closer, slowly, like approaching a skittish deer. I know what I'm asking you to accept. I know how impossible it sounds. But you saw, Claire, you can't unsee it. He was right. God help me, he was right. Why me? The question came out broken. Why is this bond thing connecting us? I'm nobody. Just a failed artist who ran away from a bad relationship. You're not nobody. Kale's voice was fierce. You're strong enough to leave a life that was destroying you. Brave enough to start over alone. Creative enough to build something beautiful from nothing. He stopped an arm's length away. The bond doesn't make mistakes. If it chose you, there's a reason. That's convenient logic. It's terrifying logic. His eyes blazed. Do you think I wanted this? To be responsible for a human who doesn't understand our world? To feel every spike of fear, every moment of pain? To know that if Crescent City finds you, I'll feel you die? The rawness in his voice stopped me cold. I've spent 3 weeks trying to keep my distance, he continued, trying to protect you without getting close. But the bond kept pulling me back, And when I saw that bastard corner you in the alley, his hands clenched. I couldn't stay away anymore. Silence fell between us, heavy with everything unsaid. So what happens now? I asked finally. Now you choose. Cale's expression was carefully neutral. You can walk away. Go to the police. Tell them about Daniel. We'll make sure Crescent City can't touch you through legal channels. You'll never see me again. And the bond? Will hurt like hell for both of us. But it'll fade. Eventually. Or? His eyes met mine, and I saw the hope he was trying to hide. Or you stay. Let me teach you about our world. Keep you safe while we dismantle Crescent City's operation. Give the bond time to be what it wants to be. My heart screamed yes. My head screamed run. I need time, I whispered. Take all you need. He stepped back. But Claire? Whatever. You decide I meant what I said in that alley. You're mine to protect. Bond or no bond, I won't let them hurt you. He walked back toward the cabin, leaving me alone with the impossible truth. I stayed outside for an hour, watching mist curl through the trees. My phone was still dead. No connection to the outside world, to reality, to anything that made sense. Just me in the forest and the knowledge that everything I'd believed about the world was a comfortable lie. Werewolves, shifters, whatever they called themselves, they were real, and one of them had imprinted on me like some supernatural fate decree. When I finally went inside, I found Cale at the kitchen table with a laptop and scattered papers. He looked up immediately, his eyes tracking my face like he was reading a language only he understood. How are you feeling? He asked quietly, like I fell through a looking glass. I poured myself coffee from the pot, needing something normal to hold. Where's Garrett? Perimeter. Check, making sure we're still secure. Cale closed the laptop. Sit, please. We need to talk about your options. I sat across from him, the table a safe barrier between us. Options implies I have more than one. You always have choices, Claire. Always. He pushed a folder toward me. This is everything we've compiled on Crescent City's operation. Names, locations, business fronts. If you want to disappear properly, new identity, new life, we can make that happen. They'd never find you. I opened the folder. Photos of hard-faced men and elegant women. Property deeds. Financial records. It looked like something from a crime drama, not my real life. And Daniel gets arrested for his actual crimes. Fraud, embezzlement, illegal development deals. We have evidence that doesn't involve the supernatural. He'd go to prison without ever knowing why his creditors suddenly vanished. Cale's expression was unreadable. You'd be safe. Free. Alone. The word hung between us. Yes, he said finally. Alone. I traced the edge of a photograph, some warehouse on the waterfront. What's the other option? You stay here, with us. Learn about the world you've stumbled into. He leaned forward. Garrett and I can teach you how to protect yourself, how to spot shifters, how to navigate pack politics. In a few months, you'd be equipped to make a real choice about where you belong. And the bond? His jaw tightened. Would grow stronger. I won't lie about that. The more time we spend together, the deeper it connects us. Eventually, it becomes, he searched for words, permanent. Define permanent. Imagine feeling someone else's emotions for the rest of your life, knowing when they're hurt, scared, happy, being drawn to them like gravity. That's what it becomes. His eyes were fierce. But it doesn't control free will, Claire. You can still choose to leave. It would just hurt more. I sipped my coffee, buying time to think. You said this was rare. How rare? Most shifters never experience it. Maybe 1 in 1,000. He ran a hand through his hair. My parents had it. They were bonded for 40 years before my father died. My mother survived another decade, but she was never the same. The bond doesn't break with death, it just aches. The pain in his voice was raw enough to make my chest tight. I'm sorry, I said quietly. Don't be. They had 40 years of knowing exactly what they meant to each other. No doubts, no questions, just certainty. He met my eyes. Most people spend their whole lives searching for that. And you're saying we have it, just like that, because of some cosmic accident? I'm saying we have the potential for it. His voice was careful. But only if you choose to explore it. I won't force anything, Claire. Won't push. If you decide you want nothing to do with me or this world, I'll respect that. The sincerity in his tone undid something in my chest. Here was a man, a shifter, who could probably take whatever he wanted, but was offering me the door instead. "Can I ask you something?" I said. "Anything. When you watched me for 3 weeks, what did you see?" Cale's expression softened. A woman who painted loneliness into every canvas, who ate dinner alone every night at the same corner table, who took the long way home, like she was afraid of what waited there. He paused. Someone who'd survived something hard but didn't know how to start living again. The accuracy of it stole my breath. "I saw myself," he continued quietly, "before I found my pack, before I understood that being alone and being strong weren't the same thing. And now? Now I have Garrett. I have pack members I'd die for. I have purpose." His eyes held mine. "But I've never had someone who made the bond sing. Never had someone who felt like coming home." My hands trembled around the coffee cup. "That's not fair. You can't say things like that." "Why not?" "Because it makes it harder to think clearly, harder to be rational about any of this." "Good." A ghost of a smile touched his lips. "Because rationality left the building the moment you grabbed my hand in that alley. We're past rational, Claire. We're into something older, something that doesn't care about logic." The door opened. Garrett stepped inside, his expression grim. "We have a problem," he said. "There's a vehicle on the access road, moving slow, like they're searching." Cale was on his feet instantly. "How far?" 2 miles. "Maybe 10 minutes out." Garrett's eyes flicked to me. "Could be hikers. Could be hunters. Or it could be them." Cale moved to a cabinet, pulling out what looked like a weapons case. "Claire, upstairs. Now." "What?" "No, this isn't a discussion." His voice carried absolute authority. "If they've found this location, things are about to get dangerous. I need you somewhere I can defend. I'm not hiding well." He crossed to me in 2 strides, gripping my shoulders. "Listen to me. If Crescent City is coming, they're not coming to talk. They're coming to take you. And I will burn this entire forest down before I let that happen. But I need you safe first." The intensity in his eyes made me nod. "Good girl." He released me, then reached for something on the table, a leather cord with a small silver pendant. "Wear this. Don't take it off." "What is it?" "Protection mark. Any shifter who sees it will know you're claimed by my pack." He fastened it around my neck, his fingers gentle. "It won't stop humans, but it might make some of them think twice." The pendant was warm against my skin, like it carried its own heat. "Upstairs," Garrett urged. "Back bedroom. There's a window that leads to the roof if you need to run." I went, my heart hammering. From the window, I watched both brothers move with military precision, checking weapons, positioning themselves. Through the trees, I heard an engine getting closer. The vehicle stopped somewhere beyond my line of sight. I pressed against the bedroom wall, my pulse thundering in my ears. Through the floorboards, I heard Kael and Garrett moving footsteps, deliberate, coordinated. The cabin had gone silent except for the creak of wood and my own ragged breathing. Then voices outside. Male. Unfamiliar. "We know you're harboring her, Thornwood." Thornwood. Kael's last name, apparently. "Don't know what you're talking about." Kael's voice carried through the door, cold and controlled. "This is private property. You're trespassing. Crescent City has a claim on the woman. You're interfering with pack business. She's human. She's not your business." A laugh, cruel and sharp. "She became our business when her pathetic ex sold her information. We paid good money for that intel. She's ours by right of transaction." My stomach turned. Daniel really had sold me out. "Human trafficking isn't protected by pack law," Garrett's voice cut in. "You know that, Marcus. What you're doing is forbidden. Only if someone reports it. And who's going to do that? You?" The man Marcus sounded amused. "Your little pack can barely keep your own territory. You think the council will side with you against Crescent City? I think the council will care when I show them evidence of you breaking the oldest law." Kael's tone dropped to something dangerous. "No harm to innocents. Remember that one?" Silence, tense and crackling. "Give us the girl, Thornwood. Walk away. We'll forget you interfered." "No." "Then we take her by force." Everything happened at once. Glass shattered downstairs, shouts, the unmistakable sound of fighting bodies hitting walls, furniture breaking. I ran to the door, my hands shaking as I fumbled with the lock. "Stay safe," Kael had said. But I couldn't hide while they fought for me. I opened the door to chaos. 3 men had forced their way inside, large, dangerous-looking, moving with that same unnatural grace that marked them as shifters. Cale had one pinned against the wall, his forearm across the man's throat. Garrett grappled with another near the fireplace. The third turned and saw me at the top of the stairs. His eyes flashed yellow. There. He lunged for the staircase. I stumbled backward, but he was too fast, supernaturally fast. His hand closed on my ankle, yanking me down. I hit the stairs hard, pain exploding through my shoulder. Then Cale was there. He moved like violence incarnate, tearing the man away from me and throwing him across the room. The shifter crashed through the coffee table, wood splintering. "Touch her again," Cale snarled, "and I'll rip out your throat." The man climbed to his feet, wiping blood from his mouth. "Protecting one human? You've gone soft, Alpha." Alpha. The word resonated with meaning I didn't fully understand. Last warning. Cale positioned himself between the shifter and me, his body coiled with lethal intent. "Leave. Now. Crescent City doesn't take orders from exiles." The man smiled, showing too many teeth. "And we don't leave, empty-handed." He shifted. One moment, a man. The next, a massive gray wolf with those same yellow eyes. He launched at Cale, jaws snapping for his throat. Cale shifted mid-dodge. The transformation was instantaneous, faster than this morning, born of necessity rather than demonstration. His dark wolf form met the attack head-on, and they collided in a tangle of fur and fangs. I scrambled backward up the stairs, unable to look away. The 2 wolves fought with terrifying ferocity, crashing through what remained of the furniture. Blood splattered across the floor, I couldn't tell whose. Garrett had shifted too, a lighter gray wolf engaging the other 2 intruders who'd also transformed. The cabin became a battleground of snarling animals and breaking wood. A yelp of pain. Cale's wolf staggered, a gash torn across his shoulder. The gray wolf pressed his advantage, going for another strike. Something inside me snapped. "Stop." The word tore from my throat. "Stop it! The fighting!" Hesitated just for a second. All 5 wolves turned toward me, various degrees of surprise in their inhuman eyes. I stood at the top of the stairs, shaking but refusing to run. My hand found the pendant at my throat, the protection mark Cale had given me. "She's claimed," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. "You said it yourself, Pack Law. I'm wearing Thornwood's mark. Doesn't that mean something?" The gray wolf Marcus shifted back to human form. He was bleeding from several wounds, naked and unbothered by it. Marks can be broken. Bonds can be severed, not without council approval. I had no idea if that was true, but I said it with conviction. "You take me now. You start a war between packs. Is that what Crescent City wants?" Marcus studied me with cold calculation. "You've learned quickly. I'm a fast learner." I descended 2 steps, closer to the danger. "And I'm telling you I'm not going anywhere with you. Your ex says otherwise." "Daniel doesn't speak for me. Not anymore." I lifted my chin. "I choose Thornwood Pack. I choose their protection. And unless you want to explain to your Alpha why you violated pack law over one human, you'll leave." The silence stretched. Cale remained in wolf form, blood matting his dark fur, positioned to strike if Marcus made a move. Finally, Marcus smiled sharp and humorless. "Brave. Stupid but brave." He looked at Cale. "This isn't over, Thornwood. Crescent City has long memories." "So do I." Cale's voice came from the wolf's throat, deeper, rougher, but unmistakably his. "Get out of my territory." Marcus gestured to his companions. They shifted back to human, gathered their torn clothes, and backed toward the destroyed doorway. Blood dripped from various wounds, but they moved with the confidence of people who knew this was a temporary retreat, not a defeat. "See you soon, little artist," Marcus said to me. Then they were gone, disappearing into the forest. The moment they left, Cale shifted back. He swayed on his feet, the gash on his shoulder bleeding freely. Garrett caught him before he could fall. "I'm fine," Cale growled, but his face was pale. "You're not fine. You're bleeding everywhere." I rushed down the stairs. "Where's your first aid kit?" "Bathroom, but..." "Sit." I pushed him toward the one chair still intact. "And let me help before you pass out." For once he didn't argue. Garrett retrieved the kit while I examined Cale's shoulder. The wound was deep, ragged. My hands shook as I pressed gauze against it. "That was incredibly stupid," Cale said quietly. "Coming downstairs during a fight." "You're welcome." His good hand caught mine. I mean it, Claire. You could have been killed. So could you. I met his eyes, and I wasn't about to hide while that happened. Something shifted in his expression. Surprise, respect, maybe something deeper. You claimed pack protection, he said. In front of witnesses. Do you understand what that means? That I'm under your protection, officially. That you've chosen a side. His thumb brushed across my knuckles. There's no walking away from that choice. Not easily. I looked at his wounded shoulder, at Garrett quietly cleaning up blood, at the destroyed cabin. Good, I said. Because I'm tired of running. Cale healed impossibly fast. By evening, the gash that should have needed stitches had closed to an angry red line. He sat shirtless by the rebuilt fire while I changed his bandage for the third time, still marveling at the wrongness of it. Shifter metabolism, he explained, watching my face. We heal quickly. Bones, muscles, tissue, everything regenerates faster than human. How much faster? This will be gone by morning. He flexed his shoulder experimentally. Might be sore for a day or two, but functional. I secured the fresh bandage with more force than necessary. You scared me today. I scared you? His laugh was rough. You walked into a fight between shifters. Do you have any idea how easily you could have been killed? About as easily as you, apparently. I met his eyes. You were bleeding everywhere, Cale. You could have died protecting me. That's the job. But his voice was softer now. The bond makes it non-negotiable. Garrett appeared from the kitchen with 3 bowls of soup. He'd spent the afternoon making calls, securing the perimeter, and pretending not to notice the tension crackling between Cale and me. Council's been notified, he said, handing out food. They're sending someone tomorrow to document the violation. Marcus and his crew are officially in trouble. Will it be enough? I asked. To stop them completely? No. Garrett settled into the armchair. But it buys us time. Makes them think twice about a direct approach. So what's the next move? The brothers exchanged a look. We take the fight to them, Cale said. Dismantle their operation from the inside. Cut off their resources until they have no choice but to back down. That sounds dangerous. It is. He set down his untouched soup. Which is why you need to decide if you're really in this, Claire. Once we start, there's no neutral ground. You're either with us or you need to disappear completely. The ultimatum hung in the air. Garrett excused himself, murmuring something about perimeter checks, leaving us alone. I moved to the window, watching darkness settle over the forest. Tell me about Pack. What do you want to know? Everything. How it works. What it means. I turned to face him. You called yourself Alpha. What does that mean? Cale's expression became guarded. It means I lead. Or I did. Before. Before what? He stood, moving to join me at the window. This close, I could smell cedar and something wild, the scent that clung to him even in human form. I was born into the Shadowpine Pack, he said quietly. 4th generation Alpha bloodline. My father led nearly 200 shifters across 3 territories. When he died, leadership should have passed to me. But it didn't. I refused it. His jaw tightened. My younger brother Declan wanted it more, needed it more. So I stepped aside, took Garrett and a handful of others, and started fresh. A smaller pack, quieter. Why? Because being Alpha isn't just about strength. It's about making choices that destroy part of your soul for the greater good. Sacrificing individuals to protect the whole. He looked at me. I couldn't do that anymore. There was a story there, pain buried deep. I could feel it through whatever connection linked us. What happened? I asked gently. My mate, my chosen mate. Before I understood the difference between choice and destiny, she was human, like you. His voice was carefully neutral. Pack law said she couldn't know what we were, that it was too dangerous to bring humans into our world. My chest tightened. And you listened? I tried to obey, kept the secret, built a relationship on lies. He exhaled slowly. Until Crescent, City found out. They threatened to expose our entire pack unless we gave them territory. My father refused, so they killed her. The words hit like a physical blow. Cale. They made it look like an accident. Car crash on a mountain road. No evidence, no witnesses. His hands clenched, and I couldn't tell anyone the truth without exposing what she'd meant to me. Without admitting I'd broken pack law by loving her. How long ago? 5 years. Long enough that the pain is manageable. Recent enough that I still remember every detail. He finally looked at me. So when the bond recognized you a human, in danger from the same pack that killed Mara, every instinct I had screamed to run, to protect you by staying away. But you didn't. I couldn't. His voice dropped to almost a whisper. The bond is stronger than choice, stronger than fear, and maybe I didn't want to run this time. I reached for his hand, threading my fingers through his. The electric heat flared, between us but softer now, warmer. I'm sorry about Mara, I said, but I'm not her. I know. And I'm not helpless. I proved that today. A ghost of a smile touched his lips. Yes, you did. Standing up to Marcus like that, it was brave and stupid, and absolutely perfect. Runs in my personality, apparently. We stood there, hands joined, the firelight casting shadows that danced across his face. The cabin was quiet except for the crackle of flames and the distant sound of Garrett returning from patrol. The bond, I said quietly. You said it doesn't control free will, that I still have choices. You do, always. Then I'm choosing to stay. I squeezed his hand. To learn, to fight, whatever comes next. Something blazed in his eyes, relief, hope, and an intensity that made my breath catch. You understand what you're committing to? Not entirely. But I know what I felt today when I saw you bleeding. When I thought Marcus might. I couldn't finish the sentence. I know that. I can't just walk away from this. From you. Claire. My name was barely a breath. He raised our joined hands, pressing his forehead against my knuckles. If I could give you a normal life. I don't want normal. Normal gave me Daniel and 3 years of doubting my own reality. I lifted his chin with my free hand. I want honest. I want real. Even if real includes werewolves and blood feuds. He laughed short and surprised. You're insane. Probably. I smiled. Guess we're a good match. The moment stretched between us, charged with possibility. Cale's thumb traced circles on my palm, and I felt the bond pulse warm and alive and undeniably present. Tomorrow we start planning, he said finally. Tonight, we rest. Heal. Figure out how to keep you alive. Sounds romantic. I'll work on that. His smile was genuine this time. But first, survival. Then romance. Deal. Garrett cleared his throat from the doorway. Sorry to interrupt, but we've got another problem. Just got word from a contact in the city. Cale tensed. What now? Daniel's missing. Hasn't been seen since yesterday. His apartment was ransacked. My stomach dropped. Crescent City? Most likely. Garrett's expression was grim. Either they're cleaning up loose ends, or they're using him as bait. Cale's hand tightened on mine. Then we move up the timeline. Tomorrow, we go on the offensive. We reached Portland by midnight. The city glowed against the darkness, all neon and rain-slicked streets. I sat in the back of Garrett's truck while Cale drove, watching the urban landscape replace wilderness. Part of me already missed the cabin's isolation. You remember the plan? Cale's eyes found mine in the rearview mirror. Stay in the truck, don't interfere. Let you two handle it. I recited the instructions he drilled into me for the past hour. I'm bait and witness, nothing more. Good girl. The endearment sent warmth through me despite the circumstances. We were heading to one of Live 2, Crescent City's known fronts, a shipping company on the waterfront that processed far more than legal cargo. If Daniel was anywhere, intelligence suggested he'd be there. What if he's already dead? I asked quietly. Garrett answered from the passenger seat. Then we gather evidence and take it to the council. Either way, we're ending this tonight. The warehouse district was exactly what I'd expected: abandoned buildings, flickering streetlights, the kind of place where bad things happened and nobody asked questions. Cale parked 3 blocks away, positioning the truck with clear sightlines to the target building. Comms check, he said, handing me a small earpiece. You'll hear everything we hear. If something goes wrong, drive away and call the number Garrett programmed. I know. I fitted the device in my ear. Please be careful. Cale reached back, cupping my face with one rough palm. The bond works both ways, remember? You'll feel if I'm in real danger. Trust that. Instinct. Then they were gone, 2 shadows melting into the industrial landscape. I watched through binoculars Garrett had left, my heart hammering against my ribs. The earpiece crackled with their breathing. Footsteps, whispered coordinates. They moved like soldiers practiced. Efficient, lethal. East entrance secured, Garrett murmured. No guards visible. Too quiet. Kale responded. They're expecting us. You think Marcus called ahead? I think Marcus wants a rematch. A pause. Stay sharp. They disappeared inside. For 3 agonizing minutes. I heard nothing but static and my own pulse. Then, found him. 2nd floor, northwest corner. Is he alive? Barely. Looks like they worked him over pretty thoroughly. Kale's voice was tight with controlled anger. Claire, your ex is in rough shape. When you see him, I can handle it. More movement. A door creaking, then Daniel's voice, weak and slurred. Who's there? Friends of Claire's, Kale said. We're getting you out, Claire. Daniel coughed wet and painful. They wanted to know where she went. I didn't tell them. I swear I didn't. Save it for later. Can you walk? I think. My leg's broken. They said if I didn't cooperate. The earpiece exploded with sound. Snarling. Shouts. The unmistakable crash of bodies colliding. Ambush. Garrett's voice. 6, maybe 7. Get Daniel out, Kale ordered. I'll hold them. Not leaving you. That's an order. Through the binoculars, I saw the warehouse's 2nd floor windows explode outward. 2 wolves tumbled through, grappling midair before hitting the pavement. One was Kale's dark form. The other was Marcus's gray. The bond flared pain sharp enough to make me gasp. Kyle was hurt. More wolves poured from the building. Too many. Far too many. Garrett emerged, supporting Daniel, both of them moving too slowly. 3 wolves broke off from the main fight, circling them. My hands found the keys still in the ignition. Every instruction, every warning, every promise I'd made evaporated in the face of watching them die. I started the engine. The truck roared to life, and I slammed the accelerator. 3 blocks became 2, then 1. I barely touched the brakes as I yanked the wheel, sending the truck careening onto the warehouse lot. Headlights caught the wolves surrounding Garrett and Daniel. They scattered. I didn't slow down, just aimed for the gap and prayed. Claire, no. Kale's voice in my ear, raw with fear. I skidded to a stop beside Garrett. Get in, now. He didn't argue, just hauled Daniel into the truck bed. Kale. The dark wolf broke from his fight with Marcus, blood matting his fur. He ran, and Marcus followed, jaws snapping at his heels. I threw the truck in reverse, tires screaming. Kyle leaped, his wolf form landing in the bed with Garrett and Daniel. Marcus pulled up short, his eyes meeting mine through the windshield. Even in wolf form, I saw his fury, his promise. Then I was speeding, away, the warehouse shrinking in the rearview mirror. Everyone okay? My voice shook. Define okay. Garrett sounded winded. Kale's bleeding. Daniel's unconscious. And you just violated every safety protocol we established. But we're alive, for now. In the bed, Kale shifted back to human. Through the mirror, I saw him examining his wounds, claw marks across his ribs, a bite on his forearm. Nothing critical, but enough to make the bond pulse with sympathetic pain. Hospital? I asked. Safe house first. Kale pulled on spare clothes. Garrett tossed him. We need to secure Daniel before we do anything else. And Claire? Yeah. We're having a serious conversation about following orders when this is over. Despite everything, I smiled, looking forward to it. We reached the safe house, a different one, deeper in the city an hour later. Kale and Garrett carried Daniel inside while I stood watch, keys clutched in my shaking hands. The adrenaline was wearing off, leaving me hollow. Inside, they'd laid Daniel on a couch. He looked terrible, face swollen, blood crusted on his lips, one leg bent at a wrong angle. But alive. Hospital now? Hospital, I asked. Anonymous tip once we've cleared out. Kale moved to the kitchen, washing blood from his hands. Can't risk questions we can't answer. I approached Daniel slowly. Even unconscious, battered and broken, he represented everything I'd run from. But seeing him like this, I felt nothing. Not satisfaction, not pity, just emptiness. Did you know? I asked the room. That they'd do this to him? We knew the risk. Garrett joined me. Marcus doesn't forgive debts, especially when his prize escapes. His prize. The words tasted bitter. That's what I was. What I still am to them. No. Kale was suddenly beside me, his presence solid and warm. You're Pack now. Protected. Claimed. There's a difference. Is there? I looked at him. Because from where I'm standing, I'm still just a thing being fought over. You're The woman who drove into a nest of hostile shifters to save my life. His hand found mine. You're the woman who claimed pack protection in front of witnesses, who stood her ground when she could have run. His thumb brushed my knuckles. You're not a thing, Claire. You're pack. You're mine. And there's nothing just about that. The intensity in his eyes stole my breath. They'll come after us again, I whispered. Yes, people might die. Probably. And the bond, it's just going to keep growing until we can't ignore it. Definitely. His smile was soft. Dangerous. Still want to stay? I thought about the cabin, the fight, the feeling of his blood on my hands and his pain in my chest. I thought about Daniel, broken for trying to trade me like currency, about Marcus and his cold yellow eyes. Then I thought about Cale's hand in mine, about belonging. Yeah, I said, I really do. The council arrived at dawn. I woke on the safe house couch to find Cale standing at the window, tension radiating from every line of his body. Garrett was already dressed, pacing near the door. What's happening? I sat up, my neck protesting from the awkward sleeping position. Pack council. Cale didn't turn. 3 members. They'll hear both sides and make a ruling on Crescent City's violation. That's good, right? We have witnesses, evidence. It's complicated. Garrett stopped pacing. Marcus filed a counterclaim. Says we attacked his people unprovoked, that you're not legitimately under pack protection because you didn't understand what you were claiming. My stomach dropped. Can he do that? He can try. Cale finally looked at me. His amber eyes shadowed. The council will interview you separately. Ask about the bond, about your choice to claim protection. You need to be honest, Claire, completely honest. About everything, about what you feel, what you understand, what you want. He crossed to me, crouching to my eye level. They'll know if you're lying. Shifters, consent deception. That's terrifying. It's efficient. His attempt at lightness fell flat. Just be yourself. Tell them the truth. That's all we can ask. A knock at the door made us all freeze. Garrett opened it to reveal 3 figures, 2 men and a woman, all carrying themselves with unmistakable authority. They weren't in wolf form, but power radiated from them like heat. The woman stepped forward first. She was elegant, silver-haired, with eyes that seemed to see through skin and bone. Cale Thornwood. Her voice was cultured, precise. It's been some time. Counselor Vance. Cale inclined his head respectfully. Thank you for coming. Given the severity of the accusations, we had little choice. Her gaze shifted to me. And this is the human at the center of this dispute? I stood, grateful my voice didn't shake. Claire Whitmore. Interesting. She circled me slowly, and I forced myself to stay still. You wear Thornwood's mark. Do you understand what that means? That I'm under his pack's protection. And did you claim this protection freely? Without coercion? Yes. The word came out stronger than I felt. Crescent City wanted to take me. Cale offered safety. I chose to accept. One of the male counselors, dark-skinned, with kind eyes, spoke next. Miss Whitmore, have you been intimate with Alpha Thornwood? Heat flooded my face. That's none of your... It's entirely our business, Counselor Vance interrupted smoothly. The bond between you is evident. We can smell it. But bonds can form without consummation. We need to understand the depth of connection to determine if protection was claimed legitimately or if this is merely attraction. I looked at Cale. He gave a slight nod. Tell the truth. We're not intimate, I said carefully. But the bond is real. I feel his emotions, his pain. When he was injured yesterday, I knew it before I saw blood. That's not just attraction. No, Vance agreed. It's not, but it does complicate matters. She gestured to Garrett. Take Miss Whitmore to the bedroom. We'll speak with her privately after interviewing Alpha Thornwood. Garrett led me away. Through the closing door, I heard the third counselor silent, until now speak in a voice like gravel. You've put us in a difficult position, Cale. Crescent City has resources, influence, starting a pack war over a human. The door closed, cutting off the rest. They interviewed me for over an hour. The questions ranged from personal to invasive. What did I know about shifter culture? Had Cale explained pack law before I claimed protection? Did I understand that accepting the bond meant forsaking human romantic connections? Was I prepared to live between 2 worlds indefinitely? I answered everything honestly, even when honesty made me vulnerable. Yes, I barely understood shifter culture. No, Cale hadn't fully explained pack law, there hadn't been time. Yes, I understood the bond meant complications. And yes, I was prepared to navigate those complications because the alternative, living in fear, being hunted, was worse than any uncertainty. Counselor Vance studied me throughout, her expression unreadable. "You're not what I expected," she said finally. "Most humans confronted with our world either flee or try to exploit it. You've done neither." "I'm tired of running," I said simply. "And I have nothing to exploit. I just want to live without looking over my shoulder." "And if living means accepting Cale as your bonded mate, joining his pack permanently?" The question hung heavy between us. "I don't know," I admitted. "The bond scares me. It's too much, too fast. But Cale scares me less than the people hunting me. So if accepting him is what it takes to be safe, to be free, then yes, I'll accept it." Vance's smile was slight but genuine. Honesty. How refreshing. She stood. "Wait here. We'll deliberate." The wait was torture. I paced the bedroom, picking at my nails, replaying every answer. Had I said too much? Not enough? Would they rule against us? Force me to run again? The bond pulsed with Cale's anxiety. He was worried too. Finally, Garrett came to fetch me. "They've reached a decision." The living room felt smaller with everyone assembled. Daniel was awake now, propped on the couch, his face a mask of confusion and pain. Cale stood near the window, his expression carefully neutral. The three counselors sat like judges, their verdict written in body language I couldn't read. Counselor Vance spoke. "After reviewing testimony and evidence, this council finds that Crescent City Pack violated multiple laws: human trafficking, unprovoked violence on neutral territory, coercion through debt manipulation." Her gaze swept to where Marcus would have stood if he'd had the courage to attend. "Their actions are indefensible." Relief flooded through me, echoed by Cale's emotions through the bond. "However," Vance continued, and my relief evaporated, "we also find that Thornwood Pack acted outside proper channels. You should have reported Crescent City's activities to council immediately, rather than engaging in vigilante protection." "With respect, Counselor," Cale interjected. "There wasn't time. They were moving on Claire within hours." "Perhaps. But you also claimed a human under dubious circumstances. She didn't understand pack law. She couldn't give truly informed consent to protection, let alone to a mate bond." "I understood enough," I said, surprising myself. "I understood that Cale was offering safety when no one else would. That's consent, isn't it? Choosing protection over danger?" Vance's eyes softened fractionally. "It's a start, Miss Whitmore. But bonds are permanent. What you feel now, attraction, gratitude, adrenaline, may not sustain decades of connection. Then we'll figure it out." I moved to stand beside Cale. "Together. Isn't that how it works?" The counselors exchanged glances. "Very well," Vance said. "Our ruling is this. Crescent City must cease all pursuit of Miss Whitmore immediately. Any further contact will result in severe sanctions, including possible dissolution of their pack charter. The human," she gestured to Daniel, "will be released to medical authorities, with memory modification to protect our secrecy." "And us?" Cale asked. "You will accept probationary status. The bond will be monitored. If, in 6 months' time, both parties confirm the connection is genuine and desired, full mate status will be granted." Vance stood. "Until then, you walk a careful line, Alpha Thornwood. Don't make us regret showing leniency." "Understood. Thank you, Counselor." They left as efficiently as they'd arrived. The moment the door closed, Cale exhaled long and shaky. "We won," Garrett said, sounding stunned. "We survived," Cale corrected. "Winning comes later." I looked at him. 6 months probation. That's doable, right? His smile was complicated. "That depends." "On what?" "On whether you can handle 6 months of me trying very hard not to fall completely in love with you." The words stole my breath. "Too late," I whispered. His eyes widened. "Claire, I felt you bleeding. Felt your fear when I drove into danger. Felt your relief when the council ruled in our favor." I took his hand. "The bond's already there, Cale. We're just catching up to it." He pulled me close, and I went willingly. No kiss, not yet. Just his arms around me and his heartbeat against my cheek. Safe. Protected. Home. 6 months passed like a dream, and a lifetime all at once. Spring transformed the forest around Cale's cabin, our cabin now, into something magical. Wildflowers pushed through the undergrowth, and morning light filtered through new leaves in shades of gold and green. I'd moved my art studio to the loft, where massive windows overlooked the wilderness that had become home. My paintings had changed. Less loneliness, more vitality. Gallery owners noticed. So did collectors. Turned out that falling in love with a werewolf did wonders for artistic inspiration. "You're thinking too loud," Kale murmured from the doorway. I looked up from the canvas I'd been pretending to work on. He wore jeans and nothing else. His hair sleep mussed, the morning sun turning his skin to bronze. 6 months of living together had made him comfortable in ways that still stole my breath. "Council meeting is today," I said. "I know." He crossed to me, wrapping his arms around my waist from behind. "Nervous?" Terrified, I leaned back against his chest. "What if they decide the bond isn't real, that I'm not actually Pac? Then we appeal, and keep appealing until they understand what we know." His lips brushed my temple. "That this us is as real as it gets." 6 months of learning shifter culture, of Pac dinners and full moon runs where I stayed human but felt connected anyway, of Garrett teaching me self-defense and Pac history, of slow, careful courtship between two people learning to trust the impossible. 6 months of falling. "I love you," I said. Because I could now. Because we'd earned the right to those words. His arms tightened. "I love you too, which is why today is going to be fine." "You don't know that." "I know the bond." He turned me to face him. "I know that every morning I wake up feeling your contentment. That when you paint, I feel the creative joy. That when you're scared like now, I want to tear apart anything causing it." His thumb traced my jawline. "The council will see that. They have to." A howl echoed through the forest. Garrett signaled that our escort had arrived. 3 wolves from a neighboring pack, sent to ensure safe passage to council grounds. Protocol for probationary bonds. We dressed quickly. I chose the blue dress Kale loved, the one that made his eyes darken with want he'd been carefully controlling for months. He wore dark slacks and a button-down, looking every inch the alpha he'd tried to deny being. "Ready?" he asked, offering his hand. I took it, electricity sparking as always. "Ready." Council grounds were deeper in the mountains, accessible only by those who knew the hidden roads. A massive lodge rose from the forest floor, built from timber and stone, radiating ancient power. Councillor Vance met us at the entrance. She'd visited twice during our probation checking in, she'd called it. "Spying," KL had muttered. "Alpha Thornwood, Miss Whitmore." She inclined her head. "The council is assembled. Are you prepared to testify?" "Yes, ma'am," I said. "Follow me." The council chamber was circular, with high ceilings and windows that let in cathedral light. 12 chairs arranged in a semicircle, all occupied. Vance took her seat, completing the circle. Kale and I stood in the center, our hands linked. 6 months ago, Vance began. This council granted probationary status to a mate bond formed under unusual circumstances. We tasked Alpha Thornwood and Miss Whitmore with proving their beta. Connection was genuine, not merely attraction or trauma bonding. She looked at us. "Alpha Thornwood, speak first. What have you learned in these 6 months?" Kale's voice was steady. "I've learned that the bond isn't about destiny forcing choices. It's about 2 people choosing each other every single day." He glanced at me. "I've learned that Claire is braver than any shifter I've known. That she faces the impossible with grace. That she makes me want to be the alpha I walked away from, not for power, but because she deserves someone worthy of her trust." My throat tightened. "And the bond itself?" Another counselor asked. "Has it strengthened?" "Exponentially. I feel her across distances now. Her emotions, her well-being. When she's happy, the world is brighter. When she's hurting, it's agony." Kale's jaw set. "If this council decides we're not legitimate, I'll respect your ruling. But nothing will change how I feel. Nothing will make me stop protecting her." Vance nodded slowly. "Miss Whitmore, your turn. 6 months ago, you barely understood our world. Now you've lived immersed in it. Do you still choose this bond, this life?" I took a breath. 6 months ago, I was running from everything bad, relationship, broken trust, a life that felt too small. Kale offered safety, and I took it because I was desperate. I felt Kale tense beside me. But safety isn't love. Safety isn't choosing to wake up every morning and think, "I want to build a life with this person." That's what I've learned. I looked at the council, meeting their ancient eyes one by one. I've learned that shifters aren't monsters, they're people with the same fears and hopes as anyone. I've learned that Pac is family by choice, not blood. I've learned that Cale Thornwood is the most honorable, infuriating, protective man I've ever met. I smiled despite my nerves. And I've learned that the bond didn't trap me. It freed me. Because for the first time in my life, I'm choosing someone with absolute certainty. Silence filled the chamber. Vance leaned forward. And if we grant full mate status, do you understand what that means? You'll be bound to him for life. To his pack. To our world. There's no walking away once it's official. I don't want to walk away. My voice rang clear. I want to stay. I want to build something real with Cale. I want to belong. The counselors conferred in whispers too low for human ears. Cale's hand tightened on mine, the bond thrumming between us, anxiety and hope and love all tangled together. Finally, Vance spoke. This council rules in favor of the bond. Effective immediately, Claire Whitmore is recognized as mate to Alpha Cale Thornwood. Full pack status granted. All protections and responsibilities therein applied. Relief crashed through us both. Cale pulled me close, his face buried in my hair. Around us, the council stood, offering formal nods of acknowledgement. Welcome to the pack, Claire Thornwood, Vance said, and I realized she'd given me Cale's name. May your bond bring strength to both your lives. We celebrated at the cabin that night, a small gathering of Garrett, a few pack members I'd come to love, and too much food. Someone brought a guitar. Someone else started a bonfire. The forest filled with laughter and music and the feeling of coming home. Later, when everyone had left and the fire burned low, Cale and I sat on the porch steps. Stars scattered across the sky like thrown diamonds, and the forest hummed with night sounds. Mrs. Thornwood, he said, testing the name. Has a nice ring. We're not actually married. Yet. His smile was wicked. Give me time to plan something worthy of you. I leaned against his shoulder. This is worthy. All of this. I know what you gave up, he said quietly. Normal life. Normal relationships. Any hope of ordinary. Ordinary was killing me. I tilted my face up to his. This you. Pack. The bond, this is extraordinary. I don't want ordinary anymore. His kiss was soft, reverent, and laced with 6 months of patient waiting. When we broke apart, his eyes glowed amber in the darkness. I love you, he whispered. My mate, my Claire. I love you too. I smiled against his lips. My Alpha, my Kyle. In the distance, a wolf howled Garrett, celebrating in his own way. The sound echoed through the mountains, wild and free and perfect. I'd run from everything once. From Daniel's lies, from a life that felt like suffocation, from the broken pieces of who I'd tried to be. I'd run until I found a hand reaching through darkness. An impossible man with amber eyes and a bond that said stay. So I stayed. And in staying, I found something I'd stopped believing in. A place where broken things could heal, where fear could transform into strength, where a human woman and a shifter Alpha could build something fierce and tender and absolutely real. I found home, not in a place, but in his arms, in pack, in choosing the extraordinary over the safe, and I'd never run again.